Ohai. Tartu, the city on the river Meiji. The city of Estonia, the second most populated after Tallinn, the administrative center of the county of Tartu. It is known as the settlement of the ancient person from the middle of the I millennium AD, presumably in the 5th-6th century, under the name of Tartu, a primitive bull, from whom occur both the Estonian name Tartu and German Dorpat. In the 11th century, the team of the Kiev Prince Yaroslav the Wise attached a part of lands of estates to Kievan Rus. The prince founded on these lands the city of Yuriev. After disintegration of Kievan Rus, the city consistently got under management of the Novgorod Republic, the Livonian Award, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Swedish Kingdom, the Russian Empire, the USSR and Estonia. Then a variety of versions of names of the city is caused.
Tartus in 185 came to the southeast from the capital of Estonia of Tallinn in the central part of the county of Tartu on both river banks. Meiji in 37 came from her falling into the Chutska-Pskovsky system of lakes.
The city was stretched along the river on 9 km. At the beginning of the 13th century in the Baltic there were no cities, but in many places there was auction, and in the known traditional terms fairs were organized. Each little large bargaining was protected by special strengthening and, as a rule, near usually at the bottom of fortress or a shaft. The settlement the posted was located. Almost all early cities of Baltics developed on such places. The constant settlement of the person on the Tomsky hill is dated the 5th century, the ancient settlement the 6th-8th centuries. The first mention of the ancient settlement on the place of modern Tartu is the annalistic story. 1030. When the Grand Duke Yaroslav the Wise went hiking from Novgorod on estates and the city of Yuriev, called so in honor of a Christian name of the prince. Based, according to the story of temporary years. In the same year Yaroslav on slightly went, both one against them and the city of Yuriev put. Historians assume that circumstance that Esther sided with Snut, the king of Denmark, and England, whose opponent Olaf Tolsty, the king of Norway, received the help from Yaroslav, could be of Yaroslav's campaign the cause. The fortress based by Yaroslav was on the highest height of the boggy meadow floodplain of the Umovi River. There passed the trade ways connecting the north and the south of Livonia, and also the craft centers of Novgorod and Pskov, with harbors of Estonia and Veronia. During this period there were numerous strengthened ancient settlements. On their place a number of settlements of city type was formed over time. Tuodenpa, Revel, Felin and others. The priest N.
Koga, studying the history Tartu, claimed that Yaroslav constructed in the city church for the sake of Saint Georgi, which was destroyed by Crusaders in 1224. But there are data on construction another church for the sake of Nicholas the Wonderworker. About coexistence of two churches, according to A. Sapunov, tells also the story about the beginning of foundation of Pskov Caves Monastery. According to the chronicle, the city of Yuriev was burned by local tribes. Sola, representatives of the Estonian tribes of Sakalesets or Saremesets. In 1061 to get rid of the power of local Slavic princes. Apparently, the Slavic monks living here built also houses, typical for themselves, a mansion which is mentioned in the same chronicle.
In Yurjevsky Zariki, on the left coast of Omovy, the Slovak suburb about which sources of the 15th century speak as about existence in the city on the right coast of the Russian end, which developed as legally independent settlement which had the administration, the trade yard and church was founded on the hill.
In 70 years, on February 9, 1134 the city with the suburb was occupied by the Novgorod Prince Vsevolod Mstislavich, and winter of 1194, the Novgorod Prince Yaroslav Vsevolodovich. In 1211 it was once again burned by Latgala. In 1215 Yuryev was captured by the German knights sword-bearers, but in 1223 is captured at them by Este as a result of the general revolt.
For the subsequent protection of the Slavic suburb from Novgorod to Yuryev sent group of combatants to 200 people headed by the Prince
Vyacheslav Borisovich. In 1224 after a long siege Yuryev was taken by sword-bearers. Germans executed all captured defenders of the city, estates and Slavs for persistent resistance. Also the prince died or was executed that the Novgorod First Chronicle testified. The same summer of an ambush of the Prince Vyok Germans in Jirgev and the city of Avzash. Having renamed the city in German into Dorpat or Derpt, the Catholic bishop Hermann Buxgevden made it the center of the principality episcopacy. The city was the center of episcopacy 3 centuries. Yuryev's falling had strategic consequences for distribution of Slavic principalities in the western direction. With Yuryev's falling ancient our dominion in Livonia stops for a long time. In 1248 he is for the first time mentioned as the participant of Hanseatic trade. Fulai was a part of the Hanseatic Union since 1276 to the middle of the 16th centuries. The German merchants and handicraftsmen aspired here. Was of great importance in trade of the Hanseatic Union with Novgorod and Pskov. The main population of Derp was made by the Baltic Germans. Unwritten sources it is known of coexistence of trade relations between Derpt and Novgorod in the 13th, 15th centuries. Judging by documents, Derpt played an important role because it was mentioned on the second place after Riga in Hansa. In 1328 the Moscow Chronicle noted heavy fire. The same summer lose the city of Nemetsky Yuryev everything, and Boschnitz and Chambers stone a Padosha, and Izgor in Chambers the German 2000 and 530, and Russia 4 Chelavika.
Under the name Yuryeva, the city is often mentioned in the Novgorod Chronicles and in digit records of times of the Livonian War.
1558-1583. At the beginning of the Livonian War the Derpta garrison after a siege capitulated, the city was taken by the Russian troops.
On the Yamzopolsky World of 1582 it departed to the Influyansky voivodeship of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
In 1600 it was captured at it by Swedes. In 1603 the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth won him. In 1625 the city was occupied again by Swedes. During the Russian-Swedish War in summer of 1656 Derp was taken by Russians, but after an unsuccessful 2-month siege of Riga they were forced to leave both the city and Livonia. In 1632 the Gustaviana Academy, the second in the Swedish kingdom higher education institution after Uppsala University. In the 18th century, after accession of Livonia to Russia, I stopped the existence. Was open. In the summer of 1704, during Northern War of Derpt it was taken by the Russian troops of the Tsar Peter I.
Within several years after capture of the city, its inhabitants of the Swedish nationality were in large part moved to internal regions of Russia.
For example, to Vologda. But Germans and Esta remained on the place. In 1775 the huge fire destroyed the historic center of the city.
Since 1783, the district city of the Governorate of Livonia and the administrative center of the Derbski county. In 1802, under Alexander I's decree, the Imperial Derbski University was opened that made the city cultural and scientific center of the region. In the charter of the university approved by the Emperor on June 4, 1820 it is written:
Ukristen v Rosyskoj Imperi for halls of the benefit. Features for advantage of Lifliansky, Estliansky and Kurland Guberny and therefore students of people of anything and. Teaching at the university was conducted by Rosyskik in German. Here the foundation was laid for the Estonian literary language. In the 19th century Friedrich Krujuald and periodicals. In 1869 the first singing holiday, which was organized by the eminent person of the Estonian national awakening, took place here, the journalist, the poet I. 5. Janssen, and in 1870 arose the Estonian Professional Theatre.
In the period of Raznamivivani of the Baltic Edge, which was carried out to government of the Emperor Alexander III in 1893, the name Yuryev, which remained till 1919, was returned to the city.
The 20th century.
After the February Revolution of 1917, the Estonian People's Party of Progressionists led by Yao
Tennyson tried to obtain creation from northern Lithuania of the certain province with the center in Yuryev.
On March 30, 1917, the Provisional Government of Russia approved the provision about the temporary structure of administrative management and local government of the Estliansky province.
According to him, borders of the Governorate of Livonia were reconsidered, were transferred the Yurevski county, entering her together with 4 other northern counties of Lithuania with the Estonian country people to structure of the Estliansky province. During the February Revolution 4 on March 17. 1917 in Yuryev Council of Working Deputies, in which by September the majority belonged to Bolsheviks, was created. The Soviet power was established by a peaceful manner on October 25. On November 1917. In 4 months, on February 24, 1918, the city it was occupied by the German troops. On December 22, 1918, the Red Army exempted it from Germans and restored in it the power of council, which held on 23 days till January 14, 1919. This day the Estonian national troops created in Revel beat out the Red Army from Yuryev. About 360 Russians were executed for short term. In the Republic of Estonia the city was renamed into Tartu.
On February 2, 1920, here the Tartu Peace Treaty, containing territorial concessions in favor of Estonia between the government of the Republic of Estonia and the government of Rusfors, in which the parties recognized sovereignty of each other, was signed. In 1920-1940 Tartu was first of all the center of the academic and cultural life of New Estonia. In 1940, according to Molotov's Pact Ribbentrop, the Soviet troops were sent in Estonia and USSR, which management accepted the decision on entry as a member of the USSR on August 6, 1940 is formed.
Tartu State. Former Imperial The university became the Soviet higher education institution with training at the Estonian and Russian languages.
On the night of July 9, 1941, in the Tartu prison of the City of People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, I shot 192 persons from among the military operations delayed since the beginning on June 22 this same year. The next day, the Society on July 10, 1941, militarized Forest Brothers began a revolt against management Esser in the southern Estonia and the area of Tartu.
On July 26, 1941, the city was occupied by the German troops. The rector of the Tartu University, Professor Edgar Kant, appointed Germans disposed to dismiss all someone were employed after June 21, 1940, to throw out all communistic literature from libraries and to remove communistic terminology from all official names. On August 25, 1944, during the Tartu operation of troops of the Third Baltic Front, the city was occupied with the Red Army. During War of Tartu, strongly I suffered from bombings. Were partially or a completely destroyed stone bridge. Through the river Meiji, the building of Veinman Theatre, Estonian National Museum, St. Ione and St. Maria's Church. By 1950, the population of the city increased up to 55,000 people. Economy. In modern Tartu, the following types of economic activity with the greatest number of workers, the greatest trade turnover or the greatest export turn are presented. Logging. The largest exporter, Lemix Wood Supply, is joint stock company. Metal working. The largest employer and the exporter, Hansa Mechanics Tartu, is joint stock company. The export size in 2015 was €39.5 million, 473 workers as of March 31, 2020. Food industry. The largest employers and producers, Lecoq Brewery, 359 workers as of March 31, 2020. And Salvestis. Production of the homogenized food and other foodstuff, 193 workers. Construction of modular houses. The largest employers and exporters. Chem Elementu and Kadamajeta Hases. Wholesale trade. Estivilia Salvu. Wholesale trade in grain and manure energy. Wholesale trade in liquid and gaseous fuel. In 2015, export turnover of each enterprise made more than €50 million. Programming. The largest employer, the producer and the exporter of these services, Playtech Estonia Programmeriminu. Export in 2015, €26 million, 525 workers as of March 31, 2020. Reuse of the sorted material. The largest exporters, Chronomet Nordicu. Scrap metal. Eesti Vanapaberu. Waste paper. DD Recycling and Epler and Lorenzes. Hazardous waste. In 2015, the industry, wholesale and retail trade, €1,300 million. Gave the greatest export turn of the city of Tartu. She was followed by manufacturing industry, €595 million. On the third place there was a construction, €468 million. The greatest number of the enterprises was registered in trade, 1177. and also in category professional, scientific and technical activity. 1160. At the same time, the enterprises of the last field of activity had the smallest number of workers. The largest employers were in the sphere of manufacturing industry. In 2000, the 2010 years, the tourist sector actively grew and medical tourism developed. In 2015, export of medical services made 1.1 million euros. The sector of retail trade is presented by generally large shopping centers located on all city. The largest of them are Lunakeskus, the Tartu department store, 2 Task, Eden, Zeppelin, and Quarter. Long distance transport. With other cities of Estonia, of Tartu connects a set of bus routes and the train to Valga and Tallinn. Out of borders of Estonia from the city, it is possible to reach by buses Lux Express, Akalines, Simple Express Riga Street. Petersburg, Pskov, Moscow, Minsk, and also planes of the Flyg Nordic company Helsinki. The extensive network of the public bus routes working according to the schedule works in the city.
Parkings. Distinctive feature of Tartu is the free period of the parking, even in underground and elevated parkings, on condition of installation in a visible place of the car of hours, with arrival time from 15 to 120 minutes.
It is specified under the sign of the paid parking.
It is possible to pay the parking in the specialized Montopriumni automatic machine in the advance payment prior to the beginning of the paid period, by means of service of the mobile parking or through a special application of Parkamine for the mobile phone.
The cost of the parking is up to €2 an hour. The penalty for violation of the rules of the paid parking makes €36. Healthcare. The health sector of Tartu is presented by generally separate specialized clinics of the Tartu University. Anesthesiology and intensive therapy.
Hematology and oncology.
Gynecology and obstetrics. Women's clinic. Dermatology. Cardiology. Neuropathology. Otolaryngology. Ophthalmology. Pediatrics. Children's clinic. Psychiatry. Pulmonology. Pulmonary clinic. Somatic states. Office of Gastroenterology, Endocrinology, Nephrology, Infectiologia, Rheumatology. Sports medicine and rehabilitation. Stomatology. Blood transfusions. Surgeries. A set of private dental clinics and also several private medical institutions, including practicing a travelecki, an osteopathy and other non-conventional methods of therapy, works in the city. Characteristic of healthcare of the city is good security of clinics with medical personnel and equipment, with the equipment, and also presence at medical institutions of specialized packages of services for medical tourists.
Fiscal capacity of institutions at the rate on one patient a year exceeds average over the country almost quadruple.
The budget of medical institutions of Tartu in 2012 makes €80.9 million, and, for example, Tallinn minus €91.9 million. The help to the patients demanding long restoration appears the district center of rehabilitation of Alva Hospital. In the city, the Tartu University is located. Former names: the Derbski University, the Uyevski University, the leading higher educational institution of Estonia, having considerable scientific base and a system of auxiliary institutions. The Tartu Observatory, the Estonian Gene Fund, etc.
The volume of research and developmental activity of the Tartu University is more than a half of indicators through the whole country.
In Tartu are the Estonian University of Natural Sciences, the former name Estonian Agricultural Academy, and 9 more higher educational institutions. The Estonian Biocenter, the Tartu Biotechnological Park and the Tartu Scientific Park are located.
The Tartu Biotechnological Park, founded in 2001, is a member of the Union of Scan-Balt, uniting the biotechnological enterprises and the organizations of the Northern and Baltic countries in the International Association of Scientific Parks.
IASP. The Tartu Scientific Park, founded in 1992, has close ties with all southern Estonian institutions which are engaged in research and developmental activity, first of all, with the Tartu University. In 2010, in the Tartu Scientific Park, construction of the nanolaboratory, largest in the countries of the Baltics, began. EXA, the largest scientific education center in Estonia and in all Baltics. The center began the activity on September 1, 1997 as the project of the Tartu University. Since the beginning of 2000 of EXA worked in premises of the Tartu Observatory, and in 2004 the relevant fund was created.
Since 2009, EXA worked in shopping center Lõunakeskus in Tartu, and in 2009-2013 there was EXA branch at Liberty Square in Tallinn.
On May 7, 2011 the new building in Tartu opened. EXA role to create an attractive, innovative, multi-purpose environment of training, offering for this purpose the services directed to assimilation of new knowledge. The main method are exhibitions like Try Itself, which, in turn, are supported by various programs of additional education. Planetarium, pilot programs of school laboratories, creation of manuals, scientific theater. In the Old City, the main part of historical and architectural monuments is located. A town hall, 1789. And Town Hall Square in style of early classicism, houses, St. John's Church. The 14th century. The main building of university, 1804-1809. On the hill Tuumamiadi. In the Tomb Park. Domsky's ruins. Piet and Pavel. Of Cathedral. The 13th, 15th centuries, a choral part in 1804-1807 is reconstructed in library of the university, nowadays the museum. Old Anatomicum, 1803-1805. An observatory. Among modern constructions, buildings of bank. 1936. Veinman Theatre. 1967.
Also outside is the airfield located on the northeast outskirts of the city, which isn't used since 1999 for a designated purpose, but being the biggest military airfield of Eastern Europe.
To air withdrawal of Russian troops in 1992, planes of strategic and military transport aircraft of the USSR, and then the Russian Federation were based here. Now the flight field of airfield is partially used by city car market. Sport. Near bus station, in the downtown, there is a complex of water entertainments, Orkeskas, which includes 2 pools, Children's and Olympic, aquapark and the center of health with various steam rooms. In shopping center, Lunakaskas. There is a full-size ice skating rink open both for driving of visitors and for trainings and competitions of athletes. Leisure and entertainments. Entertaining city institutions are generally focused on students and tourists. Respectively, the prices in institutions of each of types considerably contrast. In general, leisure in Tartu differs in availability. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.